Thanks for joining us again. I'm Jim the Potter from the Kenton Clay Works. This is lesson 3 in beginner throwing on the potter's wheel. What I've shown you in lesson 1 was a basic, simple cylinder. Lesson 2 was a very simple but yet sophisticated curved rim bowl. This is lesson 3, which is my favorite bowl to eat out of, and it's a type of what I would call a pasta bowl, but it's meant for single servings. I'll show you how I do. I really like these. I love to glaze them and I love to eat out of them, and I can tell you, Jim the Potter thinks about food when he throws. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to adhere the ball of clay to the center of the wheel, and on the wheel is full of concentric circles. So I'm going to hold my right hand with my left, support it, go right above the center, and slam it down like that. Then I smear my outer shoulder, just the outer shoulder, into the wheel head. Very simple. Lots of water. Lubrication really matters. First hand position, as you saw starting in lesson 1, which is in a little more detail, double-headed bird. Pushing in laterally at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And as long as I don't push the clay too hard and it's well lubricated, the clay is going to elongate vertically in my hand, which is my mold called coning up. I square the top off with my thumbs, and I bring the clay up. Do you notice how that's coming up a bit? That's all there is to it with coning up. Now I'm going to cone down, where I'm going to move the clay down using the bulbous muscle of the left thumb on top. The right hand locks in around the left like that. Lateral movement with the right, downward ascending pressure with the left. As I push the clay down with the left, I'm going to pull my right hand away and show you. Do you notice how this clay is spiraling outward, creating that mushroom form? So that is where the right hand is going to come in here, pushing the clay back in, and my goal is to create a trapezoid shape with an angular outside wall, descending outward, and a flat top. So let's try that. More moisture. This is what I'm after in terms of my foundation clay, but I'm going to flatten it now. My third hand position is called cosmetic centering. Right flat hand across the top. Left hand comes in at 7 o'clock on the exterior wall at the wheel head. I connect the hands, I push down firmly and in firmly with the left hand, which is on the outside wall, and I just hold it here for many revolutions. When we use our hands as our molds, the key is to allow many revolutions to pass through a stationary mold in order for each plane of the clay that is in contact with our mold to conform to the shape of the mold. Notice how absolutely buttery smooth it is. That's just where I want to be. So now I'm going to open this. This is our foundation clay. I'm going to sink my right index finger off the guide, which I'm using this perpendicular angle of the left thumb and left index finger. This is going to wrap around the pot at 12 o'clock. The perpendicular angle of the thumb is going to go right above the center point. I take the right index finger and I push down at a slight angle. When I think I'm down to about the thickness I want, which is about 1/4 inch, I pull the right finger outward, leaving a slight nipple on the bottom interior, and I pull my right index finger out on a horizontal plane, just like that. Now, you notice a rim sticking up here, and this is where our original rim was. We need to join those. That hand position is called checking the rim. I squeeze the interior wall and the exterior wall together, and then push down with the right index finger, creating a perpendicular mold, compressing the clay platelets on the rim. You see now that's like 3 or 4 times thicker, very firm and compressed. So now we have to go to our bottom. We need to smooth, flatten, and compress the bottom. I use my rib tool, which you saw in lesson 1 and lesson 2. I'm going to hold the rib tool on the bottom, starting at the inside center, and the perpendicular edge of the rib is going to be on the inside wall at 3 o'clock, pressing down at a 45-degree angle, compressing the bottom interior radius from the center point to the inside wall at 3 o'clock. I remove the tool, and you notice how the tool has stripped off all the really moist clay that's on my finger now and has made a very flat, smooth bottom. So now we're going to pull up. It's the same hand position I showed you in lesson 1 and lesson 2. And that's going to be the folded right index finger. I'm going to use this center bone, this center joint, down at the wheel head at 5 o'clock. Then the left index finger and left middle finger are going to go in the inside wall, and the thumbs are going to connect, creating a claw or a clamp. 90% of my pressure is from the outside hand. I'm going to squeeze the clay in, grab it with my claw, and literally pull the clay vertically. Thus, this hand position is called pulling up. So notice how irregular the rim is. We go back to the rim and we do the same hand position I showed you just a few seconds ago, called compressing the rim. I'm going to wash my hands, get the schmutz and schmuggle off my hands, and I'm going to do that again for you. We take the left index finger and left thumb, squeeze the wall together gently, take the right index finger and square it off. And see how smooth and perpendicular all of a sudden the rim becomes. That's called compressing the rim. Now, on the anatomy of this piece, notice the trapezoidal exterior wall. There's a big, thick shoulder here. We're going to move that shoulder in. One of the tricks is just to make a little groove with your sponge and your finger, and now that's where the knuckle from the right hand is going to fit, right there. Then we're going to squeeze this clay together, and we're going to pull it vertically. Notice how the whole cylindrical form is starting to get taller. I do not want a thin rim. So I'm leaving here anywhere from 1/4, a little less than 1/2 inch of clay. But we still have clay in the exterior wall. Do you see this outward taper? We can still pull some of this clay vertically. So I move my knuckle in. Do you see the bulge here of the clay we have? And I'm going to grab that with the knuckle, squeeze the clay gently, lightening up my pressure as I pull it vertically, because the clay that is up off the wheel head anywhere from 1/2 inch to 5 inches is much softer and more vulnerable. Compress my rim. Okay, that's my cylindrical form. From here, I'm going to take my rib tool that you've seen before. I'm going to use the straight edge of the rib tool. I'm going to apply that rib tool to the inside wall at a diagonal at 5 o'clock. This is called ribbing. I'm going to use the straight edge in lesson 3. In lesson 2, I use the curved edge, making a curved interior. So using the straight edge is going to give me a straight interior. So watch. As I press outward and downward, I move the straight edge along the inside wall, the whole way through the inner shoulder, and look how wide that bowl becomes. I wrap my sponge around my rim, clean up my rim. I clean up the clay on the interior and the water on the interior. Now, I told you at the beginning of this lesson that this was my favorite bowl, and there's a little trick to finishing this bowl. I take the perpendicular edge of my rib. I hold it in line with the interior angle of the bowl, just like that. Do you see this 1 inch of clay on the exterior that is not in contact with the rib? I take that clay with a wet sponge on the outside and push it up against the angle of the rib, on the inside. And notice, now I have a vertical wall on the exterior rim of the bowl. What I love about this is when I put my, trying to look for here's a tool. If this is my spoon or my fork that I'm eating with, when it sits in the bowl, the shaft of the spoon or the fork isn't sitting in my food. So when I pick it up, I'm not getting food all over me. This is one reason I love this bowl. So I'm just going to clean the rim, clean up the interior just a wee bit, And that is Tim's favorite single-serving pasta bowl, which is lesson number 3, beginner pottery, throwing on the potter's wheel. Thanks.